All right, what's up, guys? So it's been a minute, right? And we're gonna do this today. I've got a special coffee for you. It's been a while since we've had something new, too. And I have a regular big box of coffee. We're gonna go through that through the week. But I got this one in particular last time I went food shopping. It is a McCafe blueberry muffin, which is McDonald's. I'm like 97% sure. Yeah, copyright McDonald's. And the blueberry, I've never had their blueberry coffee, but blueberry coffee is my favorite coffee of all time. My all time favorite is Green Mountain. I think it's just called Wild Blueberry. They actually had that there, but I saw this and this was limited edition and new, so I had to try that. You see limited edition in the corner there. But my second favorite, and it's equally as good. They're both ranked number one. I want to say that is the what is it? Death Wish. They have a blueberry coffee that's like black and blue or black and bruised or something like that. Absolutely delicious. Two like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? The blueberry green mountain one, very light roast, very fruity. It's like hints of blueberry, and that's it with a little bit of coffee flavor. I never thought I would like it, but I used to drink that shit at college, and it quickly became my favorite coffee to the point where it would ruin my day if they didn't have the blueberry coffee in our cafe because we had Green Mountain coffee in our cafe at the college. It would ruin my day if they didn't have the blueberry coffee for that day. I'd be like, man, what do I get now? But so blueberry coffees have always been my favorite, and I've never been disappointed by one. It's not like chocolate coffees. I love chocolate and I love coffee, but man, chocolate coffees are really hit or miss. Some of them just taste real bad. So we're gonna go. Oh, he's up on the fucking counter now. Charlie's really misbehaving today. I'm sure it's possibly got to do with everything we're about to talk about in a second. But yeah, so let's get this guy started. We've got the blueberry McCafe muffin. Kind of mashed that all together. But yeah, so this is the end of men's mental health awareness month, and to be honest, it's pretty ironic, or rather, I think coincidental. Coincidental is the correct term. Get down. Put a little bit of water in a cup and splashed it on him. He knows better than to get up there. He's intentionally being annoying. Before I started recording the video, he was standing in the corner of the kitchen yelling at me constantly. And now that I'm recording oh my god, that smells so good. It actually smells like a whole blueberry. It smells like blueberry pancakes with syrup, is what it smells like. Mmm, that's delicious. Okay. Uh, he was standing in the corner just meowing at me constantly. And I think the reason is because his feeding schedule is messed up. It's been like a rough, I think, about 2 weeks for me. It's hard to tell. Because I don't really have mental breakdowns the way most people do. But I had my equivalent of a mental breakdown where I basically go like, full autistic for about like 2 weeks, and I do nothing but just lose myself in a video game. Now I don't know if I don't think I actually am, but probably on the spectrum a little bit somewhere, although I would describe it as being the opposite end of the spectrum as Elon Musk. And we can go into like a whole discussion about that someday. Would have been a good thing to have during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month if I wasn't so busy trying to keep my own mental health in shape. Uh, so again, like normal, whenever we try a new coffee, we just do it with a little bit of half and half. No sugar or anything like that until we've tested it out. Some of the more sweeter flavored coffees, like the Cinnabon stuff, those don't even need sugar. Okay. This is good. I'd say third on the blueberry coffee tier list, which puts it in last place because I can't remember any of the other ones right now, but the blueberry coffee tier list is like a tier above all the other tier lists. So, oh yeah, this is probably better than everything else I have right now, except the hazelnut. And I'd say it's like evenly matched with the hazelnut. I love hazelnut. Hazelnut's one of my favorite flavors. It occurred to me not too long ago, like, I don't know, maybe like it was 5 years ago now, but as you get older, 5 years ago doesn't seem like such a long time in the grand scheme of things. But it occurred to me a while ago that um, Lucky Charms, that's what it is. Uh, the marshmallows use hazelnut. Because one day I was mixing my coffee, and whatever I managed to do, I managed to get my coffee to taste exactly like a Lucky Charm marshmallow. So ever since then, anytime I make hazelnut coffee, I just think of Lucky Charms, and now I want to go eat cereal. But I just added a little sugar, and I should probably not wash off the spoon until after I've decided it was the right amount. But I really like this coffee. It's kind of a middle range between the other two. Oh, that is perfect. Dude, perfect amount. I didn't think it needed that much sugar. Like, oh, just a little bit. Like, when they add the sugar crumbles on top of a blueberry muffin, that's exactly what it tastes like now. This is really good. Okay, so maybe I added a little bit too much sugar, but I'll deal with it. I need lots of energy today, anyways. So we can sit on the porch for a bit and chat just to get you guys caught up. I just remembered that, was it the last video I uploaded? No, I think I did one or two after that. We never finished the whole demon discussion because Charlie shut the phone off when I was mid chat. But yeah, so let's finish talking about the coffee first. God, that's good. Definitely just a tiny bit too sweet, but other than that, it's perfect. So, um, the Green Mountain Blueberry, absolutely my favorite. I can drink that one in any situation. Now, I used to drink my coffee black. I was like a bit of an elitist during college. And we would my roommate and I, we had, so it helped that we always bought full beans and ground them fresh. It tastes so much better that way. The taste is incomparable. So my roommate and I would always get full beans of pretty good coffee. Like the worst brand we got was 8 o'clock, which I'd say is kind of like the golden standard of mid shelf. You know, it's like great coffee, but we get shit like Javalia and Godiva and whatever we like. We would take turns buying coffee. We always had really good coffee, and if we put anything in it at all, it was hazelnut Baileys before we went to class. Obviously, I'm a highly athletic dude with a really good metabolism. And he was kind of the opposite, but both of us were of a body type that a little bit of Bailey's in like a mug of coffee, neither one of us were gonna feel that at all, right? We could have drank 5 of those mugs and not gotten anything at all. But wait, you should have seen the beer and wine budgets for our parties. But we used to drink Bankers Club whiskey the first year. Because that shit was cheap as hell. But then eventually we would get like Jameson and better wine, like Yellowtail and stuff like that. I think one of my roommates really liked Yellowtail. Or was it Funky Llama? I always get those two mixed up. Anyways, back to the coffee. So the second one, I used to drink it black all the time back then. I was kind of a bit of a coffee snob, elitist, and would I put stuff in it occasionally? Yes, but I was kind of the opinion that uh, cream and sugar ruined good coffee, and if you needed cream and sugar to drink it, it wasn't good coffee, right? Then after I graduated college, I went back into the workforce and I kept that same mentality, but I got really accustomed to drinking cream and sugar in my coffee because I was working as a maintenance guy for like 7 years at one place, and at that place, they only ever bought Folgers Classic, which I'd say is probably the best of the bottom shelf coffees, but it is absolutely a bottom shelf coffee. I'd say like the two bottom shelf coffees that come to mind are Maxwell House and Folgers. Folgers taste like chemicals, and Maxwell House tastes like dirt. So it really prefers on whether you really depends on whether you prefer your coffee to taste like chemicals or taste like dirt. And I don't mean earthy the way like a good dark rich Godiva blend might be a little earthy. I mean just like straight dirt. Like someone put dirt in your coffee mug instead in your coffee maker instead of coffee grounds. So like neither one of those are good options. But I also have a slight preference for Folgers, I think, because that's what my dad drinks. And to be fair, they had a couple flavors I tried that weren't as bad as the classic roast. I'm not gonna say they were good because I don't remember for sure, but we could probably get back to that at some point. I'll try some like a series of Folgers. But yeah, so I gotta start like recording these different coffees and labeling them. the way I do that with the cereal and pop videos. So maybe I do a re-uploads or I start a new series of that. Because it was originally the Christmas advent calendar that we did. But yeah, all right. So that coffee, it's taken me like 20 minutes just to explain my coffee tier list. That coffee, um, the blueberry from Green Mountain, I very frequently drank that one black. Or sometimes, did I use hazelnut creamer? No, I think we got Italian creamer. We did get creamer. It was just like the Aldi's type. Well, not necessarily Aldi's type, but it was just like generic brand. We shopped at Wegmans mostly because that's what was close, and it was just like the generic Wegmans Italian creamer. I think is what we would get, but we would just add like a splash of that. Um, this was I think before I really started using half and half, but yeah, it was just like a little bit of subtle sweet. Mostly, I would either drink a lot of my coffee black or just with a tiny bit of that hazelnut Bailey's, but the hazelnut didn't always go great with like the flavored coffees. That was more for just like an Italian or a French roast. And then we had that little bit of creamer I would use. So that blueberry mountain coffee, I can absolutely drink it in any form, any situation. I've tried it all kinds of various ways, and it's never bad. The um, what is it? The Death Wish coffee. That one, I really like it a lot, but it's the polar opposite side of the spectrum, where it's very dark and earthy. It's like a very heavy feeling coffee. So while I can drink it black, I absolutely prefer just to have some cream in that one. Just cream. That's it. It's the way I very much like that coffee. It kind of tastes like it's sweeter than the Blue Mountain blueberry on its own. So it kind of tastes um like a coffee crumble cake with blueberries, I guess would be the best way. It's been years since I've been able to afford Death Wish coffee. That shit's expensive. It's like twice as much as other coffee. But uh that blueberry is absolutely delicious, especially with just a little cream. And then this McCafe blueberry now has to come in at my third. But I do say it was a little underwhelming, both by itself and with it cream. But once you add both, even if you overdo the sugar a little bit, it's really good. It actually just straight tastes like a blueberry muffin. Okay, now that it took me 20 minutes to do that, this is the part I thought was going to take 20 minutes, but it's probably going to be a little bit faster. The mental health awareness month stuff. So, yeah, I've been really going through it for a long time. The past 3 years have been especially rough. Past 5 years kind of sucked. I've really been in survival mode for like 15 now, which is crazy. But I'm finally coming out of survival mode, which is cool. However, it's one of those things where the road kind of gets rockier towards the end. in a lot of ways, you know? Once you're not so numb to the world anymore, you feel everything a lot more. And that's how I survived, was by making myself numb, you know? So I frequently enter, I wouldn't, it used to be more frequent. Now it only happens a couple times a year. Um, but I will go into this like period. I just call it the void. Because it's not truly a mental breakdown like other people experience. It doesn't really make me feel like, I definitely feel down in a way that some people who haven't been depressed would describe as depression. But as someone who literally struggled with depression for pretty much my entire life until I learned to handle my own thoughts, um, I wouldn't describe it as an episode of depression at all. It's more just a being in limbo for a while, where it's just extreme disassociation and removal of myself into some virtual world. This past time, it was space engineers. Spent about 2 weeks just making random ship ideas and designs. And in the past, it's been BattleTech, Endless Space, Civilization. What else? You guys get the idea. It's always one of those games that you can like literally just spend 16 hours on it and be like, oh yeah, where'd my day go? I only did like 15 turns, but my day's fucking gone. And Space Engineer, it's not turn based like the other ones. It's like Minecraft in space, basically. But it's like, oh man, I only got 1/4 of that ship built, and it's been 15, 20 hours already. Shit. Well, I guess I'll go to sleep and finish it tomorrow. And then, of course, it ends up taking like 5 days, or you get like halfway through it, and then you start another ship. But I just want to say I'm back. Really, it's important to take breaks, which is something I have never been good at. It's weird. For how much I talk about self care, I'm not that great at it, which is the primary reason why I talk about it so much. It's mostly an attempt to motivate myself to be better at taking care of myself, you know? The thing I'm really bad at is the thing I'm worst at of probably all of my negative traits. I'm really bad at asking for help or taking a break when I need it. I am pretty much just a nose to the grindstone type person. I keep pushing myself until I break and I fall and shatter. And then I pick up the pieces, put myself back together, and do it again over and over and over. And I get better at managing the cycle. You know, I I feel like it happens less frequently now than it used to. Way less frequently, but I'm also under way more stress now. than I used to be, and I don't really have a very good perspective of time anymore. So it's it's hard for me to look back and be exactly like, oh, it happened 3 months ago, it happened 4 months ago. It's kind of just all a blur for me because I exist in this endless grind now where unless I'm in the void or uh, on a day off, I take one day off a week, which I'm starting to think maybe that's not enough, but also it's hard for me just to make myself take one day a week off. But I just wake up and I grind endlessly all day, every day. So it's like that Nine Inch Nails song. Every day is exactly the same. And it gets really hard to keep track of time like that. Like, it's mind boggling. It's about to be July. I can't believe I've been up in Erie this long. It feels like half that time already. But yeah, I just wanted to say I'm back. I'm doing better. I'm gonna spend the next day or two catching up on messages I haven't responded to, getting back into touch with people. And we should be good for at least I feel I want to say a while because each time I come out of the void, I feel way better than ever before. It's like, a lot of RPGs, especially a lot of the old school ones, you need to go somewhere to level up, right? Once you hit the experience cap for that level, you either need to go somewhere to be able to get the next level or to be able to buy your skills, your new skills. So, I feel, or at the very least, you got to go somewhere to like unlock a new skill tree. I feel like that's kind of what happens when I enter the void, right? I've just grinded so much XP. And by that, I mean mentally tanking the bullshit of life. I've just grinded so much XP at that point that my mind and body go into shutdown mode uh, while I go into autopilot to like repair all my gear and restock on my consumables and buy my skill points so I could start the next level grind. So if anyone got discouraged, especially anyone that's new to the channel, about me like going off for 6 months and randomly going quiet for 2 weeks with no explanation, you've got nothing to fear. I'm always gonna come back stronger and better than ever before until the day that they silence me for speaking the truth. Or if I'm lucky enough to die a peaceful and quiet life, but who knows? We'll see whether or not that happens. Only God knows what He has in store for me. So, yeah, I really just want to say I'm back. I'll be catching up with everyone recently this week. I may spend a little less time streaming than I used to. But that doesn't mean the content creation is going to be any less. In fact, it just means I'm making more content. It's exactly the opposite. Because right now, the two primary limiting factors on the amount of content I can create are the work I'm still doing around the house and the amount of time I stream. So, oh God, while I would love to reach a point where I can just be live for 16 hours, I don't know if I'll actually go that long, but we're using that as an example. We'll say 10, which was my old like gold standard. I'm it was probably closer to 12 or 14 when I was really grinding. But we'll say 10. I would just love to reach a point, kind of get back to a point, but because I've been there before, but I want to be there, but on the next level of there. It's a big loop. Life repeats itself over and over again, just with similar patterns in different places. I want to get to a point where I can just stream 10 hours a day and then maybe do a couple hours of back end work, go to sleep, and stream 10 hours a day again. And we'll probably do that 4 days a week. And then the other 2 weekdays will be for other back end work and then like chores and stuff. And then I'll take my 1 day off. So the problem is now there's so many other things that need done that when I stream for 10 hours or even like 8 hours, I'll get to the end of a week and be, holy shit, I got one thing done this week. And that's not actually technically true because I put in like 50 hours at work. Well, when you take in the off stream stuff, I put in like 60 to 80 hours, 90 depending on the week at work. But when you look at my checklist, the checklist keeps getting longer and I'll cross like one thing off per week. So until I manage to bring it, it's like 3 or 4 post-it notes now. So until I manage to get it down to a manageable level, which I consider to be one post-it note, uh, we're gonna stream a little bit less. I'm gonna work on back end stuff. Now that it's warm out here, I want to get the porch finished. I need to paint this floor and maybe do a little bit of touch up out here. I don't think I'm really gonna paint this. This looks fine as far as painting, but it could definitely use a good cleaning. There's some bugs that get in here. I'll get like a stink bug problem, and there's like a dead wasp in one of the screens. So maybe I'll get some caulking and see if there's any holes I can seal up too. But in general, I just want to get the work on the house done so that whole stuff, because it's just like a giant looming shadow hanging over me, right? When I walk outside of the studio and like 1/3 of the basement is painted. And then I'll go upstairs and I can see where the living room is painted, but the edge going from the living room, I'll just show you guys. The edge going from the living room to the little dining rooms area is really sloppy because the original plan was I was just going to spend the first couple months, the first few months knocking everything out, but then issues with the logistics of getting the raw materials and my stuff up here and all the other things that went on between me and the landlord they pushed all my plans back by, we'll say, probably at least a year, all things considered. Because originally I was going to finish the upstairs before I even started working on the basement, but it got to a point where I hadn't streamed in months and I just needed to go live again. So I skipped finishing the rest of the upstairs. Hold on, Charlie wants to go outside, I guess. He's like prying the door open. I'm not gonna let him all the way out yet. I'm gonna let him out on the porch. The reason he's been frustratingly annoying is because for the past 2 weeks, while I wasn't doing great, I wasn't feeding him at the normal time. I was still absolutely feeding him, changing his water and stuff, but normally I feed him at 3 p.m. I have all my clocks except the stove, I think, because that one won't let me switch it at military time. So I had to convert that. 1500. Normally, I feed him at 1500 or 3 p.m. for all you weirdos that think it's easier to use a system where you can tell someone we'll meet at 7 o'clock and you don't know whether that's 7 in the morning or 7 at night, instead of just saying 17 versus 1900 hours. But, anyways, that's a rant for another time. But yeah, normally I feed him at 3 o'clock for you normies. And that's it, just every day. But for the past 2 weeks, it was kind of just whenever I had the energy to get out of bed, you know? So it'd be random times. And there definitely may have been 1 or 2 days that I slept so much that I don't know if he was fed that day. So I was like pretty sure he was, but I wasn't absolutely sure. So I gave him an extra half cup of food to be sure. So there may be times where he was, a little bit hungry, maybe times where he got a little bit extra more than he should have. But to say the least, for the past 2 weeks, his feeding schedule has been very inconsistent. And it was kind of just whenever I woke up and got going after a little while, I would feed him, and at this point, I've been up for hours. Like, I took a shower. I took a very long shower. And it has admittedly been a while since I've done that. Now, probably not as long as Asmongold. He's probably the record keeper for that as far as like relatively well put together people. I'm sure there's some just degenerate dude or someone who's been homeless or never had access to running water for their entire life, so they just don't bathe at all. But as far as like relatively well-adjusted members of society, I feel like Asmongold probably has the lowest showering ratio of the vast majority of the population. However, I probably got pretty close to him during the past 2 weeks. It's actually so bad that I've got some natural dreads forming in my hair. I'm gonna have to spend like I should have probably used more conditioner to help this out a little bit. But I'm gonna have to spend probably like an hour just brushing this shit out, which is gonna be very therapeutic. But it also feels like a frustrating waste of time to me, which is one of the things I'm really working on the most right now. I think that's what I got to work on this level, right? We were talking about how every time I go into the void, it feels like we're leveling up. I think each level has a theme to it too. I think last level's personal theme was me. And that's a really deep, difficult thing to explain. I've always been insanely individualistic and a lone wolf type person, and caused a lot of problems for me in life. But it's not, I don't do it on purpose. It's just because I look at most of the world and it seems obvious to me that most of the world is wrong, but most people are either too stupid or too cowardly to stand up for what's right. But like that led me down an interesting path where I became very intentionally isolationist and what's the word? I don't even know what the word is. I totally blanked. I started thinking about something else. Just other, like not that, like not an entirely different realm of things, just other things throughout my life that would kind of define this these isolationist periods. Like it was never intentional up until I got into like high school and college, right? Before that, it was just me kind of being on the spectrum where I'd sit in my room, play video games, sit in my room, read books all day, and I'd be sitting there like reading Harry Potter or Artemis Fowl or Lord of the Rings. My friends would literally show up on my porch and just sit there for like 30 minutes or more until I came out to play with them. And I would do it because I would get annoyed that my mom kept interrupting my reading. You know, I get really, really into it. Like I've got a powerful imagination, so I just create these entire worlds in my brain as I was reading them. I absolutely love reading. Just put myself entirely into the world. So, you know, every time she would knock on my door and be like, um, your friends are still sitting on the porch talking, it would absolutely ruin my immersion. So after like the second or third time, I'd be like, fine, you know what? Whatever. I'll finish this chapter later. Because that was always the thing. I'd be like, you know what? I'll go out when I finish this chapter. But oftentimes, like the chapter wasn't the end of the interesting part, or the chapters were really big because of the type of the books I would read. Like I always read way above my reading level, so uh, it was way above my grade level. Uh, there was like that type of lone wolfness, which I would describe as isolationism, just of like, yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Then, like, the isolation came kind of throughout college and high school mostly. It was, I guess, really prompted by a lot of the bullying I experienced in middle school, you know? I was we came from a small school, and I was one of the best performing students in that school. So I got bullied a lot for being a nerd, basically. Especially because I wasn't very charismatic at all back then. I was just a quiet, weirdo, loner geek who was really into video games before it was cool to be into video games. It's absolutely mind blowing when I think about how popular video games are now, that video games used to be the lamest thing. Like, everyone would make fun of you if you were into video games. I don't even know if there is a modern equivalent, you know? As much as, like, the internet is really um toxic, really a lot more toxic these days in a way than it used to be. Don't get me wrong, there's always been like a seediness to certain areas of the internet, but a lot of it was just in good fun. Like in the days of E-Bombs World and stuff, before everything was for money and views, like people were running around pranking things, kicking dudes in the nuts and stuff, but it was relatively harmless compared to what it is now. And I really totally lost my train of thought there. I don't remember what I was saying anymore. Let's see. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so we talked about after that phase, um, originally, where I was just young, being a nerd, doing my nerdy things, it got to a point where it wasn't cool to be that at all. And okay, so here's the point that I detoured to. Even though the internet is a lot more toxic now than it was when I was growing up on it, it is also a lot more accepting of individual hobbies and likes and things like that. And in high school and middle school especially, it was not cool to play video games. That was something only geeks and nerds and like old dudes that were computer programmers or like engineers did, you know? Geeks and nerds. But that started to change later in high school. I think primarily due to Call of Duty and the sports games like EA. But definitely the first couple years of high school, it was just another thing for people to make fun of me for. So like especially going out into a larger school and then being out in these general populations where we would have these like philosophical or scientific conversations, and I realized I as much as I love having these deep philosophical intellectual conversations, it's like probably my favorite. It's like second or third favorite thing in the world to do, I think. It's top five easy. We'll put it that way. Um, I absolutely despised doing it with probably about 90% of people just because they weren't capable of participating in the conversation, so they destroyed the conversation. I don't know how other way to describe it. But I'd say that like the combination of And often, I was bad at regulating my emotions back then. So I'd get frustrated when they were stupid or foolish, and I would admittedly get a little egotistical. I went through like a phase of like when people started bullying me, where I did everything I could to hide my intelligence, but then throughout high school and college, I never showed the room. Oh yeah, this room was just supposed to go next after this room before I went downstairs. So I never. Oh, you could have seen it behind me too. I never like taped off its edge or trimmed it carefully or anything, because like whatever, I'll just paint it next and then it'll be no problem. And it's been literally months. So this is one of the things I need to get done for reducing the amount of weight I'm bearing on my own mental health at this point in time. One of the reasons we're going to be maybe streaming less. I don't know if it's going to seem less, because hopefully I'll be more better connected into a time that's accessible to other people. One of my big issues with streaming right now is that I go live at degenerate hours and then I go to sleep when everyone else is waking up. I do want to fix that eventually, but it's low on the list of priorities. And I have a massive list of priorities right now. So, finishing the thought, that second wave where we went into like a whole isolationist phase instead of a just, oh, I'm going to do my own thing phase, was absolutely brought on by the combination of being massively bullied and the fact that I realized that I just didn't like talking to most people in general. So why would I do that? At that point, it was kind of like a 50-50. You know, I went over the years, I've went from like, most people are good. They're like, it's like 50-50. Then it was like, most people are bad. And now I've come to the realization that most people aren't either good or bad. They're just stupid ass NPCs that let everyone else decide their lives for them. My cousin's riding his ATV in my backyard. I love it. I need to mow the yard today, which is one of the things. It's on the massive to-do list. But it's really cool that I'm coming back out of this isolationist phase. And as I was doing that, I kind of went to the opposite end of the spectrum in high school and college, where instead of hiding my intelligence entirely, I began to intentionally flaunt it, to put people in their place. And that was probably the worst version of me. It got really bad in college. When I got to college and realized I was smarter than most of my professors, I took advanced physics. Well, not advanced physics, but I was taking physics. I was taking AP calculus and physics classes in high school, which I guess it is advanced physics because it stands for advanced placement. But then I went and I took a physics class in college because I had a physics requirement. Oh, I had a science requirement. I was like, well, I know a lot of physics. So if I take physics, it'll be an easy A, right? And it was, but I would get really mad at the physics professor because he was teaching things wrong. You know, like there was a there was one question that I remember arguing him with on uh, a test that he wouldn't, because he did a really cool thing. I like the guy overall, right? Really cool professor. Unfortunately, don't remember his name. I destroyed a lot of brain cells in college with alcohol and just depression too. That probably did more than the alcohol did. But it's crazy how that wipes your memory out more than anything else. But and I only had the one class with the guy. Overall, he was a great dude. I think just not the most competent at physics. Good professor, because what he did was he would review every test with the class. We'd go over the most missed questions, and if there was a question you felt that was either incorrect on the test or uh, in not clear enough either way, like one either multiple answers could have been acceptable. He would either like accept all acceptable answers, or if it was a bad question, just remove the question from the test and all the grading and stuff. So we would review each test afterwards, and I went on, and there was this one test where he was like, I don't remember exactly how it was, but it was like, in what way do refrigerators defy the third law of thermodynamics or some shit like that? And they don't. Now, they create the illusion of drawing, of defying one of the laws of thermodynamics. I don't remember specifically which law, but it's the law that uh, heat always goes from hot to cold, right? So basically, the question is essentially, if heat always goes from hot to cold, how does a refrigerator make things cold? But the way it was worded, it like specifically said something like defy that law of physics. And I was like, no, it does fucking not. And I probably spent like 5 or 6 minutes arguing that point in class until the he just gave up on that. We both gave up on that one. I did get him to change some questions eventually, but I don't think I won that one, which is weird because honestly, that's the one that I felt like he was most wrong at, because it wasn't necessarily a mistake. It was kind of a mistake in that it wasn't worded intentionally that way, I don't think, but the way it was worded ended up being misinformation, because refrigerators don't defy the laws of physics, they require them to work. And basically, the way it does it is through, what do we want to call it? Divisions, right? If heat always goes from a hotter environment to a colder environment, then you need to create the environment around what you're cooling to be colder than it somehow. So how do you do that? Well, with the refrigerator, it's got these refrigeration coils essentially that it pulls the heat into. And if you like move your refrigerator out from the wall, you'll see them on the back, and don't touch them because they're very hot. You shouldn't put things behind your refrigerator, and your refrigerator should never be pushed all the way up against the wall, which makes me want to move mine because it's a little bit too close for two reasons. One, that can like mess up the wall. I don't know if it's actually hot enough to start a fire, but I wouldn't risk it. It's gonna mess up the paint job. It might cause the heat decay and damage over the years. So it's just not a good thing. Two, if anything falls back there, like papers or stuff, that can get kind of rough. But there are coils, usually on the back. They could be somewhere else. But the vast majority of refrigerators have these coils on the back. So what it does is energy always goes from hot to cold, right? The refrigerator itself is colder than the food or drinks you're putting in it. So energy then goes from the those food to um, the air inside of the refrigerator. Then the coolant in the coolant pump is colder than the air in the refrigerator. So energy goes from the air in the refrigerator to the coolant, and then the area where the coolant interfaces with the coils on the back is colder than the coolant once it has uh, interacted with the air in the refrigerator. So energy goes from the coolant to the coils, and then the air outside the refrigerator is generally colder than the coils themselves. So heat goes from the coils to the air in the refrigerator. That's one of the primary reasons that to the air outside the refrigerator. I mean, that's one of the primary reasons that unless they're specially designed for it, refrigerators really struggle with super hot environments because there's less space, there's less thermal overhead for them to throw heat into. It's not necessarily that they need to work harder to cool the inside, which is true. It's just that they struggle to radiate the excess heat. Which is why when you see like really serious gaming PCs or supercomputers or stuff, they're almost always liquid cooled because eventually you reach a point where you just can't put heat out into the local environment any faster. And having a liquid cooled system very much can help offset a very warm environment. Now, this has probably been the longest one of these videos that I have ever done with the most little side stories ever. And I think that's ironic because I did say this second period is probably going to be like 5 minutes and it's been like 55 minutes. But the second part. After high school and college, I went back into this other phase, a new phase of isolationism, where I was like, there were like three things that were going on. One, I just went back into the regular workforce. General maintenance, line cook, whatever, delivery driver. I was doing it all. So I just didn't have time for anyone's bullshit anymore, you know? I would work all day, come home, play video games, and the only social thing I really did was like hang out with the bros that I grew up on the block with and go to karaoke. So, uh, but there were like two other things. One, I just had this whole like, if the world is so wicked and evil and mean, I'm just not gonna even waste my time interacting with any of it except for my small specific chosen corner, you know? And I wish this would zoom out more. My old Galaxy had a bigger camera. Well, not bigger, but uh, wider angle lens, I think. It had an ability to like de-zoom. I don't know if I could do that during a video, but I'm pretty sure, regardless, that the video was wider because I feel like I'm gesturing and it's not in the camera. But the other thing, I had this very much superiority complex going on where I'd always been told I was smart, right? I did very, very well on achievement tests. They give you like um, these tests, at least when I was in school, they would give you these tests when you were younger to figure out where you were on the scale. I was put into this Quest program because of how well I scored. And, I wasn't going to say my scores at first, but fuck it. So, I took this when I was very young. Very, very young. It would have been around fifth grade, maybe. Definitely middle school ages, because it was around middle school that they put us in Quest. And I didn't understand the difference between a percentile or a percentage then. But basically, what happens is a percentage is out of 100%. What amount did you get correct? It can be from 0 to 100%. And the best score you can get is a 100%. I was very used to casually getting 100% on my tests without trying. In fact, by the time I got to college, I had a friend, very good friend. Bro, why am I blanking? I don't want to. I don't want to dox her. I'm trying to say. It's weird. I can like how you can only remember like part of someone's name. It's not the part I want to say on social media right now. I had a friend in college from Miami. We'll put it that way. I don't know what she was doing up in Wilkes-Barre from Miami. I think I asked her about that once. I don't remember what it was. But we had this computer class together. I've always been obviously a geek and a nerd. I didn't need to take a computer class. It was a very basic computer class. Like, this is how you write a macro. This is how you use Excel. Things like that. And I don't even think they told you how to write a macro. They maybe told you what a macro is and how to like write an Excel equation. But things that I'd known since I was like 10. Not exactly, but you get the idea. So literally all I would do in that class is I would sit on my computer and I would play flash games like on addictinggames.com or something. Wasn't paying attention at all, just playing fucking Heliattack 3 or whatever all day long. And what was the stick fight? Oh my god, that was so good. There were so many good Flash games back in the day. Star Trek Broken Mirror. I played all that shit. But I literally didn't do anything, and I would get an A or a B on every single test without even paying a second or studying. And she would work so hard. Pay attention to everything, study for every test, and always just score slightly underneath me. And it frustrated the hell out of her. But we were good friends. We're still friends on Facebook. I need to hit her up and see how she's doing. If you see this, I hope you're doing well. But it's always been like that for me. So when I was there taking this test, I scored in the 95th percentile on reading and writing comprehension, because there wasn't actually a writing portion, but they did ask multiple choice questions about like grammar and things like that. And I scored, I think I said 95th percentile, hope, not 95%. And 98th percentile in the math section. And I was really, really mad at myself because I thought I did bad, right? I was like, man, I that was back when I actually still studied hard. I feel like the school system does not help intelligent people at all. Because there used to be a time where I studied my ass off, was super into learning, and then they were like, hold up, slow down. I was like, wait, why? They were like, because everyone else can't keep up with you. I was like, by everyone, like, obviously, not everyone. There are people that score higher than me, but the people that weren't scoring higher than me, was like, maybe we need to make a 3-tier schooling system. And I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way, but we are doing a disservice to people at both extreme ends of the bell curve by trying to teach them like the people in the middle. Because it doesn't work for the people near the top, and it doesn't work for the people near the bottom. So maybe we need a 3-tier school system where using this testing, you get put into groups of students that are similar to yourself so that you don't have one person trying to surge ahead of the entire rest of the class, or one person that's lagging behind, that's utterly failing, that could do fine if they just got a little more direct instruction. So I think, I mean, I don't know the exact deviation, but based off what I've seen over the years, I think maybe take the top 20%, put them in their own school system, the bottom 20%, put them in their own school system, and then keep the middle 60 in the regular school system. I think that would very much benefit the world. But random tangent aside, over the years, through all the emotional trauma and stuff, especially with the bullying, and then especially once I got into high school and college, and those numbers, first of all, I learned the difference between a percentage and a percentile. I realized that I learned that 98th percentile didn't mean simply that I got 98% of the questions right and I missed 2%. It meant, on the whole, that I was smarter the 97% of the world at those mathematical tests they were giving us. And 95th percentile in reading. The second reason it pissed me off is because I always enjoyed reading more than math. Like, I love literature and music and all forms of art. I like theoretical math, like talking about spooky action at a distance and string theory, game theory, and all that stuff. But I don't like memorizing equations. I loved learning about the theories behind spaceship construction, but hated actually doing the drag coefficient in atmosphere calculations on a space shuttle hull or something like that. It's terrible. By the way, the space shuttle flies like a fucking brick, but that's because it's like literally just designed to slow down and land in one piece. Uh, anyways, so I was mad that I scored bad because I was expecting to score 100s, and I was mad that not realizing that literally like 95% of the world would have loved to have my scores, right? How like selfish and entitled of me. I was also mad that I scored better on math because I'd always told myself I was better at reading because like literally I would just sit in my room all day and read books. Like I didn't find math fun. I hated writing proofs in geometry. I kind of low-key despise math on every level. I'm just kind of good at it. But once I got into college, and especially, well, high school a little bit, but really college, and I started to see not only the demonstration of that intelligence amongst my peers, but it was one thing to like be smarter than some of the high school teachers, right? But when I got to college and these were the people, I felt like so studied a shitload of philosophy. Um, in fact, the whole reason I got into political science as my major was because they kind of lie to you a little bit early on in that major. They make you think it's going to be more philosophy, but it's actually turns out into like these are the statistics of why people vote, and this is the math of how we get people to vote the way we want them to. And I was like, fucking math! I thought it was a philosophy major. But anyways. Uh when I got to college, I felt like Plato, where I mean Socrates. And Plato tells the stories of Socrates where he says, "Hey, I he goes to the oracle. The oracle tells him he's the wisest man in the land. He's like, I don't believe that. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm going to go find the wisest man in the land. So he starts going around to all these supposed wise men, great teachers, great military leaders, great religious leaders, starts asking them questions because he wants to learn from them. And he exposes them all to be fools. And that's not his intention at all, right? He's trying to do the exact opposite. He just wants to learn to better himself, Yet these guys that are trying to teach him to be better are worse than him in the most important ways. So it's like, why would I have these immoral, lying, incompetent pieces of shit teach me anything type thing? Is basically the mentality that Socrates ended up later in his life, and the mentality that got him killed when they asked for an apology at his trial. And it was like, fuck no, I ain't apologizing. I just want to speak the truth. So they were like, all right, go sit on death row for a while then, and until it's time to off you. So I very much adopted that kind of mentality without even realizing it in college, where I was like, I was just trying to learn. Like, I was there to learn, right? But all these people that were teaching, not all of them, there's like 5 professors. I still have a tremendous amount of respect for. And I'm not going to name them. Primarily because I don't want any of the ones I don't name in this context to get pissed off. But there were very few people in college that taught me anything I couldn't have taught myself. And most of them did it way slower than I could have taught myself. So that got me on like this whole superiority kick, where for years, especially having experienced how dumb the average college student was and how dumb the average college professor was, and then going into the workforce after that, and then just, everyone there on average was dumber than everyone in college. So I was like on this whole I'm the smartest man in the world kick for a while. And because of that, that was very isolating. And that was like the second major isolation phase, where in that period, where for 2 reasons I just didn't want to talk to anyone. One, because as I mentioned earlier, I felt like everyone was evil and wicked and cruel and had nefarious intentions, and only like at that point I'd went from everyone is good mentality to everyone was born bad mentality. I went from Locke to Hobbes. Now I've pretty much, then I settled on Rousseau for a while, which is man is born free, but everywhere he is in change, which is essentially that most people are born good, but society turns them evil. Oversimplification, but that's essentially it. And that's the state I was in this other isolationist phase, where I would just go to work, go home, play video games. On the weekend, go to karaoke, and that's it. Maybe hang out with the bros, play some Smash Bros, smoke some weed, drink some beers. That was it. I pretty much withdrew from society entirely because I felt society was way too stupid and evil to be worth my time. And then for the past 5 years or so, I've been going in the opposite trend more than ever. Now, I just want to help people, which has always been the truth. I was a firefighter since the age of 16. I was a Boy Scout before that. Fucking choir boy, altar boy, all the shit. But I used to get really mad when people either wouldn't appreciate my help or wouldn't accept my help. Especially because things would almost always go bad for them when they didn't. Considering that I generally only offered it when I knew better. But see, people don't like to be told you know better. Uh, Most people, for whatever reason, would rather get something wrong 10 times than have someone tell them they're doing it wrong once. And it's an ego thing, I'm sure. But the only time I really ever had an ego problem myself was during that, not even during the entirety of that isolationist phase, just during parts of it. Because a lot of it, I kind of felt like, like like Odin in disguise, walking among the people. Like when I was working as a line cook, I didn't really get into that whole elitist mentality as much. One, because it was clearly just a service job. Two, because it was also high paced and intense, so I didn't have time to like think philosophically too much. But I also really appreciated the work people I worked with and stuff. But there were still moments where it took me out of it, and I was like, "Oh right, I'm a little bit different, huh?" Where people would be like, "Man, I don't get how you can just." There's one moment in particular I can recall. There's like a bunch of moments, but the one that I think best describes it. It was everything was going to shit that day in the kitchen. I think someone got burnt, someone got cut, someone didn't show up. Other things, like things were going out wrong, things were going out late. I just kept doing was like, did I mess some things up? Probably, but let's just say the vast majority of it wasn't my fault that day. And at the whole day, I was just like, all right, drop another thing of fries, let's go. Oh, that steak was the wrong temp. We need to fire a new one. All right, I got it. All day. It was like the worst day ever. I just fucking held it together, just kept going. One of the dudes came after it. Yeah, so like, Mel, I don't understand how you could like keep your shit so cool when everything's like burning down around you. And there were like three things going on with it. First of all, I wasn't bothered even really because like it was all things out of my control, right? If it had been a day that I was doing really bad, if I had temped three steaks wrong or something like that, or even like tempt one steak wrong, it contributed to the issues significantly. But I think there was one point I messed something up, but it wasn't directly my fault. It was a communication issue where something wasn't communicated properly to me. I did it the way I thought it was supposed to be done, not the way it was actually supposed to be done. But you guys get the gist, right? It wasn't like I was the guy that forgot to drop the fries. I wasn't the guy that cut someone. I did get burnt that day, but it was, I think I did. I don't remember specifically. But I got hurt that day. I was either the guy that got burnt or cut. I don't remember which one it was. And it was just one of those things where I walked off the line, I put some cold water on it, put a bandage on it, and I walked back on it to finish that same order. And I think that's one of the things that like you absolutely have to leave the line because you got to sanitize that shit. And I think that was one of the things that kind of prompted the response of the guy. Like, I don't understand how nothing bothers you, basically. Or how you keep your cool, or how just nothing phases you. I don't remember the exact line he said, but it's just like, well, I don't know, man. First of all, I was disassociated from all of it. I was in my head having space battles, writing songs and things like that, and I was just putting the burgers up, putting the fries in the bag, you know? So I was kind of on autopilot through all of it, was part of it. The second thing was I've been in more intense situations in work. Uh, I was at that point, I was basically retired from the fire department. So I'd been over 10 years as a firefighter. So compared to like a place going up in flames that might have fireworks in it or other things that could explode and kill you or your team, like someone forgetting to drop a batch of fries is absolutely nothing on the scale of things shit hitting the fan, right? It's like someone didn't drop a batch of fries. Oh my god. Out of a on a scale of 1 to 10, that's at most a 2, right? And okay, someone didn't drop 5 batches of fries. Okay, now it's a 3. And especially for that, like you would get cut. Thankfully, I never got burnt as a firefighter because that's real bad. I got burnt way worse as a cook than ever I did as a firefighter. But you get cut, beat up all the time as a firefighter too. And obviously, it's not the thing where you can be like it's not like a restaurant where it's like okay, someone gets really badly injured, you can go out and say sorry, but we're gonna need to wait. We had an incident, and your meal's gonna be maybe 20 minutes late. Well, give it free in compu. The fire is not going to accept that. If you say, hey, one of the guys just took a fucking hose coupling to the shin, which I'm not sure if you've ever held a hose coupling, but they're basically as big around as this coffee mug. It depends on the size of the hose, and they're just solid metal because they're designed to handle hundreds of pounds of pressure. So, oftentimes you'll like pull them off the truck and they weren't packed right, or you're pulling it off someone else's truck and it's packed differently, and you don't know how it's packed. And one of those couplings at the end will flop loose and just boom, just right in your shin, and it's like that'll put you to the ground. Uh, well, the fire's not gonna care. It's gonna keep on raging, so you've got no choice but to get up and get that hose on the hydrant, right? So, like the grand scheme of things, like getting cut in the kitchen, it's like, yeah, that's a 3. No one's gonna die because I went to go wash my cut out real quick. And I looked at my wrist when I did that because it was on this hand. I'm pretty sure it was. No, it wasn't that day, but the worst one I got was on this hand. Like, I don't scar, which I have mixed feelings about because I would love to be able to tell the stories, but also I know people are jealous of my skin sometimes. So, whatever. But I almost took my entire thumb off. It was like I could see the tendons and everything. It was a really bad slip. That was the worst cut I ever got in the kitchen. But I don't think it was that cut that day. But I do think I got cut that day. Anyway, so it was just one of those things where I was like, man, that moment when he said that, I was like, oh, that's right. I'm kind of different. I'm just this dude going hard, and I'm walking among the regulars. But then I did get, after I left that, and I got very isolated where I wasn't around people anymore. That's when I really got into the elitist thing, especially being on the internet. The internet's bad because it was just people are even dumber on the internet than they are in real life. So, you know, that that 98th percentile, we'll say the 95th percentile, I'll go with the lowest score for as be as generous as possible. Like that I'm that whole I'm smarter, I'm part of the smartest 5% of people in the world mentality got overinflated to the point where it became, oh, I'm in the 101st percentile, which is a math joke if anyone cares about math. But I like math jokes. I just don't like doing math. The best pickup line I've ever heard. I'm probably gonna get it wrong now because it's been years since I've done calculus, like 15 years since high school. But I'm probably gonna get it backwards as far as which goes where. But I think it was, man, I wish you were a derivative so I could lay tangent to your curves. I'm not a pickup line guy, but that one made me fucking laugh when I heard it. All right. But yeah. Then eventually I started coming out of that isolationist phase and started really putting myself out there with the streaming and everything. And I adopted that original mentality of, man, I just want to learn and I want to help people learn. But instead of it, all right, everyone get in line, I'm going to show you some things. It became more of a, hey, there's a Sunday buffet. It's open. If you guys want to join. If not, cool. And that's a lot more effective way of teaching people, I found. I will still occasionally offer advice if I see someone is really struggling. I'm like, man, that guy needs a hand. Because I know if I were in that position, as bad as I am asking for help, I would want the help, even if I couldn't get over myself to ask for it. And I live by the golden rule. So I'll go up and be like, hey man, you need help with that? If they say no, it doesn't bother me anymore. Just move on with my day, you know? It's like, all right, they're going to spend 3 hours working on that when I could have fixed it in 30 minutes, but hey, it is what it is. Maybe they'll learn something. Maybe not, but it's got nothing to do with me, right? I've come up with 3 rules for happiness over my life. Mind your own damn business, right? That's the most important one. Like, your business in what's in front of you, what's directly around you, and what's affecting you. Now, I have different metrics of that than some people. A lot of people would say like, oh, well, you shouldn't interfere with a couple having a domestic at a restaurant. I disagree. Depends on the level to the extent. You know, if I'm there and like, especially if the dude is gonna haul off and hit the woman, or like the more physically advantageous person, if it's a non heterosexual couple, then especially because usually one of them is physically larger and more dominant than the other. If the bigger individual is going to start whooping on the smaller individual, that is absolutely 100%. I'm getting involved. I'm not going to watch someone get the shit beat out of them as long as I know what's going on, right? If I walk into a situation and there's just a fight going on, not getting involved. Mind your own business. But like, if I'm sitting there eating my breakfast and like she's talking about her feelings, and the dude is just getting mad that she has feelings. Then like start slapping her around and stuff. I promise you, I am getting up from my coffee and my blueberry muffin. I am grabbing that dude by his neck and shoving his face down to the table until he stops hitting her and apologizes. Because I think that's one of the biggest issues we have with today's society is there's no actual public accountability, right? Everyone just pulls out their phone, says, "Oh, accountability, accountability," shoves the camera in your face, accountability, but no one actually holds you accountable. Like, cancel culture is not accountability. Accountability is fuck around and find out. So, I think we need more social, not necessarily social, societal accountability, where we can't let the reason we have food deserts in the most economically and technologically advanced country in the world is because people didn't hold their peers societally accountable, and their peers ravaged the land around them until there was nothing left for them, right? It's just the most direct, simple way to put it. So, mind your own damn business means don't get involved unless you need to be involved or you should be involved. Like, am I going to get involved if that couple is just sitting there arguing about some text messages? No. But if it escalates to a level of physicality or a level of where like someone else is just shouting at someone, and the whole room is watching while the other person's just sitting there in tears, I'll be like, dude, can you take it somewhere else, please, or something like that. So that's the first one. Mind your own damn business. The second one is more mental, more like conversational and less physical. While of course mind your own damn business can be conversational as well, it generally you have to like physically be there or insert yourself into the situation for mind your own damn business to apply, right? For the second one, it's don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. It's a very similar thing, except for entirely conversationally. The best example I have of this would be I'm like 90% sure my ex cheated on me. Would knowing for a fact improve my life, mental health, or anything in any way, shape, or form? The answer is no. Because either way, whether the answer is yes or whether the answer is no, it's just going to make me feel shittier about some things that happened back then. So, well, best just to leave it an unanswered question, right? I don't know whether she cheated, and it doesn't matter because you know what? We're not together anymore, and I hope she's happy and doing well, and you know maybe one day I'll find someone that does work for me. So mind your own damn business. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. I think those two are really the biggest that people need to work the hardest on because they're really, really easy in the grand scheme of things. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. It's harder. I'd say they get harder in scale, right? Because I call it the what if demon. The what if demon tells you want to know the answer, but then you find the answer out, and the answer gets you sad, angry, mad, depressed, You get absolutely no benefit from the answer. Sometimes the answer will make you sad, angry, mad, depressed, but you get a benefit. For example, if you have a missing person in your family and you find out that their body was recovered in a river, sad, angry, mad, depressed, but closure, right? So learning to conquer that what if demon is much more difficult than learning to conquer the I need to insert myself into this situation demon. I think everyone has the what if demon. Not everyone has the I need to insert myself into this situation demon. The the third level and most difficult is assume everything has positive intent even when negative intent is immediately apparent. That's the most difficult, and I'd say that's one of the most obvious things about how I've become unbothered. So another comment similar to the I don't get how anything phases you when shit was falling apart during the kitchen. One of my first streamer friends, really chill dude. We'll give this guy a shout out because he's out in the creator world. It's like if there's a difference between talking about creators who are friends versus friends who don't have the same kind of internet presence, right? I don't want to dox anyone without their personal input. But I have Preacher of Valor, the Preacher of Valor, leader of the Black Rose Order, awesome top tier content creator. Go give that dude a follow. When we first met, I remember at one point early on, I would get a lot of trolls, a lot more than I do now. To be fair, I had a lot more viewers then. That was like at my peak before I fell off for a little while. I'll probably get all the trolls back once I grow again, but probably more than ever, worse than ever before. But there was like one day he said something like, "Dude, you're basically untrollable." And the thing was, because like 99% of it didn't bother me. We'll say 95%. Is there like 5% of me that maybe actually gets to me? Yeah, but it's like a moment. Oh, I didn't say the other reason that I had no problem dealing with that bullshit. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life that I don't really speak about openly. So like with compared to like fighting fires and surviving the shit in my personal life that I've survived, like an overdone steak, a batch of burnt fries, nothing to me on the grand spectrum of things. So it's like some dude stops into my stream and actually manages to like hit a moonshot that chinks the armor. I'm like, ooh, that one kind of hurt. It's like, I'm over that in 5 seconds, right? I find a way to make a joke about it, and then I'm gone. Move on to the next thing. And that's basically how I manage to be quote unquote untrollable. Is one of the things that people don't understand, and I think even a lot of content creators don't understand, because I watch these content creators' egos get blown out of proportion and destroy their entire careers, is it is all content to me when I'm live streaming, right? So it's about making it as entertaining as possible while staying within my lane within reason. Am I gonna go jump around, do some fucking eye show speed, fucking moving the camera around like this, screaming at the top of my lungs in a helicopter car? No. Like, shout outs to the dude. He has done some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen a content creator do. He's done more for America China international relations than any politician has in the last decade. I can't watch his content though because it like literally gives me an instant migraine. Like 90% of it. I can watch short clips. My favorite IShowSpeed moment is when he jumps over those fucking supercars. Especially being someone who's always been naturally athletic myself. Played soccer since I was like 6 years old, and I've played a dozen different sports. Uh, Even some on the high school and college level. I look at myself when I was at my peak level of physicality. Is there a point in time where I probably could have jumped over that supercar? Maybe. I see that and I know it's physically possible. There were definitely guys I was on teams with that could have done it. But standing there and actually having the balls to do it and then do like the two in a row, man. Mad respect for that dude. So much mad respect for that dude. So it's like, even when you come to some of these IRL streamers, now it's hard to do it when someone's obvious got ill intent, like Johnny Somali. And that's like a whole other level of how do you deal with that, assuming positive intent on that. Uh, that could be like a whole other 3 hour video. But basically, let's look at someone who I wouldn't say is necessarily a nuisance streamer. I would say nuisance streamers are a sub faction of um, IRL streamers. Kind of like, you know, housing streamers or a sub faction of RPG streamers, where like almost every RPG community, MMORPG, like ESO in particular, has a huge housing sub faction of streamers where it's people that like only stream ESO housing stuff or mostly tangentially related to it, right? You have like these IRL streamers, and then you have a smaller pocket within there that I'd say are the nuisance streamers who go around specifically harassing people. And some like bridge the gap a little bit and will step into the area a little bit. But let's use the king of IRL streaming here, Ice Poseidon, as an example. I don't believe the dude generally has ill intent. Do I think he's a good person? No, probably not. But the reality of it is most people in the world aren't good people. They aren't evil people either. They're just somewhere in between. He's definitely not a bad person. Now, would I say Johnny Somali is a bad person? Yes. And I think Ice Poseidon would agree with me because Ice Poseidon has specifically told his crew, the Andes or whatever they're called, not to fuck with Johnny Somali. Now, I do think most of it is out of self preservation, right? He doesn't want to be associated with that guy because of the negative effect it has on his own channel or anything like that, or the negative effect it has for RRL streamers in general. But also, what Ice Poseidon streams I've seen, even when he did some bad shit. Like the breaking the window of the car or whatever it is. He did seem to feel genuinely bad about it, and he said he was going to make up for it. Whether or not he did is one other another thing entirely, but I believe he was earnest when he said he was going to make up for it. And just because someone says they're going to pay you back and don't doesn't mean it was a lie. Oftentimes things happen, or it's different when someone, even if it becomes a lie, it may have not been a lie in the moment. People often say things that they wish were true about themselves that aren't. Let's put it that way. But regardless, I don't really see him breaking or just doing some of the extreme things he does as nuisance, as ill will, because especially being a content creator, being live, I can understand. Well, three things happen. One, most of those guys that are IRL streamers aren't emotionally well regulated at all. They're like man babies with millions of dollars. So there's a whole issue there that I don't have to deal with. Of sometimes they just fly off the handle because they can't control their emotions. And that's not a bad person that's just an immature person, someone that never grew up, right? So you kind of have to pity them. But just because someone can't control their emotions doesn't mean they have evil intent. And people make really bad decisions, not evil decisions, just inadequate, ineffective, um, self-destructive decisions when they're emotional. Two, there's the whole idea of content brain, which we'll call, there's like two aspects of it. One is the first I touched on, which is more the area I live, which is when I'm live, when I'm recording, if something happens, I'm going to make content out of it, right? If I am chatting with my chat and some dude comes in and starts saying some idiotic shit, I am going to go back and forth with him. I may get a little animated, appear a little emotionally excited, but in my head, I am just laughing my ass off the whole time, being like, man, I know this guy thinks I'm frustrated, but this is hilarious content. There's a video, one of these first videos I did when I used to walk around smoking back when I could afford to do that. I was just walking around the town once, and there were like two people dragging basically a whole ass tree down the street. It wasn't like a Christmas tree or anything. It wasn't like a branch. And if it was like a massive branch, like one of those trees where it's like a mini tree coming off the tree about halfway up or something. Just dragging it down the street. And like normally I just would sit there talking to this, but that was with the old phone. I flipped the camera around mid video and turned that into content, right? But the other aspect of content brain is the one I think which is destructive, and it's what can I go out and do to make content. There's like two things, like what can I turn into content that is already happening, and what can I go out and do to make content. And now there's a good aspect within that second section. Because you can look at like KSI, it's a good example. What can I go out and do to make content? I can stream from the back of a moving truck. I'm sure a lot of that stuff is scripted. Like when the guy got in and started driving the truck while he was streaming, I'm 70% sure that was either something scripted or someone on his team who has like a green light to go off script, you know? Fucking hilarious though. I absolutely love that clip. I don't understand why there's this hate for things being scripted. If it's scripted, if it's a skit, and if it's a funny, that doesn't make it any less funny. In some ways, that makes it even funnier because it's someone's creative output. Someone put so much work into creating that to make you laugh instead of just turning on the phone and getting lucky. You know, like the concept of them putting all that time and energy into creating something for you to enjoy, you're going to hate on them because they scripted it. Now, if it's a bad script, that's something else. If you want to hate on the quality of the script, that's fine. But if it's a good script and you're just like, yeah, but that was scripted. Who fucking cares, man? Every Key and Peele thing ever pretty much was scripted. But they're all hilarious. I'm just thinking of the Hootie and the Blowfish one. That's one of my favorite. Hey, it's Hootie! Go watch that. Look up Hootie and the Blowfish, Key and Peele. But the bad side of that, what can I go out and to do? And like to use an example of what can I turn into content that's already happening, the iShowSpeed thing with the flying car. Like China was already doing that on their own. So, but Speed was like, this is pretty cool. Can make some pretty cool content. Let's go take a look at that. And it was like mutually beneficial for everyone involved, right? But on the flip side of that, there's downsides of that too. Whereas, what can I turn into content that's already happening? Well, Israel, Palestine, all the other terrible things going on in the world. I don't want to get into names because I don't want people to start taking sides in this, but like the creator drama and stuff like that. Now, there's a difference between creator drama and holding someone accountable for something they did. For example, Tana Mongeau and Cody Ko. That's not creator drama. That is someone calling someone to task for sexual exploitation of a minor. It's just what it is. Straight up. I don't want to give examples of stuff that are just bullshit creator drama because I don't want to get involved with any of that. But you guys know what I'm talking about. We'll just leave it at that. So that is stuff that is already happening, that it's like negative. Now, because of that, I have a mixed feelings on slop channels, right? There are important things that need to be reported on, which is what the slop channels are great for. But when important things aren't happening, they're, in my opinion, just a net negative on the creator sphere in general, which is why they're called slop channels, right? The negative aspect of I'm going to go out and create content and bring it back to the IRL streamer, Johnny Somali, right? So the positive version, you got KSI renting the moving truck to stream in, or like all the random ideas he comes up with that are fucking brilliant, or his team comes up with, his brand comes up with. Then you no, I'm. That's the third third time I've said their own name. I mean Kai Cenat. I'm sure you guys know I mean Kai Cenat. I don't know why I said KSI. I was watching a video last night about why hip hop doesn't respect KSI. So that's why he's in my head. The guy who had the worst song ever that was simultaneously like the most played song at the time. It was like number one and simultaneously the most hated song, which I think is hilarious. So that's another good example though of a guy who maybe not always isn't on the positive side of the spectrum, but he goes out and says like, what can I do to create content? He makes a meme song and then he goes and starts making some more serious music, right? Generally positive stuff. On the negative flip side, you have the whole Johnny Somali going up, assaulting the comfort statues and all that stuff. And what do you do about that, right? Well, look, as a Ice Poseidon example, the guy that's kind of stuck in the middle. All right, so you show up, you have a negative interaction with Ice Poseidon. Say maybe you're the guy whose car window he broke. I think it was an Uber or a taxi driver or something like that. It's like, damn, man, you could hate Ice Poseidon for the rest of your life. You could say, you know what? These fucking IRL streamers, they're all nuisances. Fucking streamers in general. Fuck these guys, you know? They just like make millions of dollars. All they do is talk into a camera. It doesn't take any skill or talent or creativity. They're the dregs of society. You could adapt that mentality from having experiences with Ice Poseidon, and it would be relatively logical and entirely reasonable, although highly emotionally biased, right? Definitely not a based take. So, or you could be like, you know, the dude was having a bad day, got a little upset. I think he punched the window, is what happened, or threw something at it. And I don't think he meant to do it on purpose. He's going to pay me for the damages. Let's assume he paid the damages, right? He's going to pay me for the damages. Yeah, that was a shitty day. Kind of gave me a lot of mental stress and stuff. But you know what? He didn't do it on purpose. Dude was having a bad day himself. He was just at work trying to make money. And he broke my car window, you know? The positive intent there is the guy was just at work trying to entertain his audience, and he happened to lose control of himself because he's a man baby that struggles with emotional maturity, like most of those IRL streamers do. And he didn't probably intend anything negative for the owner of that vehicle. He was just trying to put food on the table and entertain his audience, right? That was the positive intent. Now, when someone has gone as far as Johnny Somali to specifically say I will be your guinea pig or whatever the fuck it was when he said, if you want to see like someone destroy their life, do the most degenerate things possible, do like just anything evil and whatever for clout and money, I'm your guy. Uh, it becomes really hard at that point to assume positive intent when he's specifically said he has negative intent, right? Well, I said I wasn't really going to go into this, so I'm just going to talk on it real quick. Two things I just want to say in regards to what you do at that level. It's still the same as the Ice Poseidon situation, right? It's just a more grievous or grievous, I don't know how to say that word properly. Degree of it. In the end result is the same. The positive assumption is the same. He's just trying to put food on the table and entertain his audience. Right? If you approach it from that situation, it becomes a lot easier to deal with an Ice Poseidon or even a Johnny Somali character without letting them negatively affect your own mental health. So, I said there were two ways. Oh, the other way is someone like Johnny Somali who is not malevolent, right? He might be malicious, but I'll say he's not malevolent. Now, what's the difference between malicious or malevolent? Malicious is everything Johnny Somali does. The comfort statue, the pro-China, pro-North Korea demonstrations, like that's all malicious intent, specifically designed to like poke someone, stab them, frustrate them, everything you can do to just twist the knife any little way. I pity those people because they're very small, very deranged, very, very sad, pathetic people. And like I look at him and I just feel bad for him, right? Which makes it even easier to follow the third rule in that case because it's just like, oh man, he's gonna ruin his life. He's gonna go to jail for 30 years probably. It was all because it was too fucking stupid to figure out how to put food on the table a normal way. Or too fucking cowardly to do it a more legitimate way. Or too fucking petty and selfish to do it a nicer way. So it's just one of those things where, as much as I love seeing him get his just desserts, don't get me wrong, I can't wait till they lock that guy up and throw away the key. I still pity him. You know, if I encountered him in real life, I'd be chill with him. I'd turn him into content like I do everything. But even if his entire point was to harass me and ruin my life, the way he has some of those other streamers, some of the people that were kind of following him, reporting on him, the way he harassed some of those live streamers. There was that one guy who had the Japanese girlfriend that he was harassing and stuff. Like, you could tell they were visibly upset by him. Assume positive intent. So, what do? Right? You be cordial with them. And the crazy thing is, you'd think that's going to make that guy show up and bother you over and over and over again, but it's going to do exactly the opposite. Because what he wants is those negative reactions. What he wants is to know that he's affecting you, getting inside your head, living rent free. And when you give him that, it gives him a reason to come back. But if he's showing up harassing you, trying to make content for his degenerate little kids or the more grown up idiot assholes that just want to watch him destroy his own life, then I blanked for a second. I want to go next door and see how my cousins are doing. They're like out back talking, I think. But I don't know if they'll still be there once I'm done with this. But if you show up to that situation with an entirely different mentality, you're really cool and cordial and friendly, but kind of tongue-in-cheek manner, because you know who you're dealing with. You know what's going on. He's going on. One, if you're streaming, that's going to be great content for both of you. Probably better content for you than him, because his whole thing is about focusing on degeneracy, right? And you have a wholesome moment. It's kind of funny. Like, he probably won't enjoy that. But as far as like content planning goes, but I'm sure a lot of his audience will. They'll be like, "Oh, that was a cool little moment." And maybe you, as a content creator, get some of those guys in your channel or something. But even if you're not a content creator, right? You just have that. People look at that and they say, "That dude is a badass. He went up and he bothered that chick, and she didn't even give a fuck. You know, she just brushed that dirt right off her shoulder." Uh, you get a lot more respect that way. Two, they don't come back because you didn't give them what they want. They wanted a rise out of you. They wanted emotional disturbances that they could turn into content. You cucked them so hard by smiling at them. So, in the grand scheme of things, the three things you can do to most vastly improve your own mental health and happiness, in my opinion, are: mind your own damn business. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. And assume positive intent, even when negative intent is apparent. Now, that doesn't mean like accept every horse without checking to see if it's a Trojan horse. My personal opinion is, do look a gift horse in the mouth. Just don't let the person who gave it to you let you see. Just don't let the person who gave it to you see you doing it, right? So the idea behind that statement is basically, it's like when people would buy horses, it's got something to do with how well groomed and taken care of and healthy they are, I think. Where I'm not a big horse person. I'm sure my sister would know more about this than me. Where it's part of the like, you know, when you buy a car, right? You will go get them. You'll check the mileage. You'll maybe take it to a shop. I highly suggest, if you ever buy a used car, you take it to a shop. Have them run once over on it. It's like $30 to $100, depending on where you are. Totally worth the thousands of dollars you could save in maintenance costs if you get blindsided by some bullshit. So Um, looking a horse in the mouth, kind of like checking the odometer on a car in a lot of ways. So, what don't look a gift horse in the mouth is saying is like, if someone's going to give you a free car, don't complain that it already has 80,000 miles. It's a free car. But what I'm saying when I say do look a gift horse in the mouth is, okay, it's a free car, but acknowledge the fact and make sure you're aware of the fact that it has 80,000 miles, so you need to plan a maintenance schedule according to that. So there's nuances to all of this, right? Assume positive intent, but don't be blind to the goals that someone with negative intent would be the whole statement. But just to make it succinct, mind your own damn business. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. And always assume positive intent. So, with those things in mind, I know this all seems like a weird tangent, but it all wraps into what I've been trying to say for the past hour. It's just hard to get these things out. My brain is insanely complex. And the previous level that I was going through was a combination of rediscovering me and I guess you could say conquering old demons, like a variety of them. Like just a huge demon war. There's been a massive demon war going on in my mind for the past year or so. And I believe we've been victorious at this point. 90%. There's always still those little battles going on after any massive war, little skirmishes here and there. But we're back streaming. And my mind is so much clearer than it was a month ago. So I feel like that previous level, again, going back to the analogy of where like old school RPGs, you would have to go back into town to like level up or buy your skills or whatever. And when I enter those void periods where I just disappear from the world, I feel like that's my leveling up moment. And I think the previous level that I just finished was that whole rediscovering who I truly am and conquering the parts that had invaded me that weren't actually me. Which is how I really describe demons. They're the invasive thoughts. They're the thing that you're like, I don't want to be that type of person. Why would I do that? Well, it's because there's a demon in you. Whether or not it's like a biblical demon or just a colloquial demon, like in a Imagine Dragons song or something like that. Uh, that's a demon you need to conquer if you want to stop acting like that, right? And I feel like most of those demons have been eliminated. And more importantly, I'm at a point now where I remember who I am. which I don't know, probably for the last decade or more, I haven't really known. I've wandered my entire life where the Drifter name comes from, right? And I have a sense of direction now that I haven't before. Not even that I haven't before. I've had this sense of direction since a little bit before I came up to Erie, but then it was just like an inkling. It was like, I think that direction is north, but I don't know. And then I got up here and the sun came up and it was like, oh yeah, that's definitely north, but I don't know if it's like exactly north. But now I've found a compass. So I have the ability to go precisely where I want. And more than that, having conquered those demons, at least many of them, I have more motivation and focus than ever before, too. So I think if the insane length of this coffee chat compares compared to the other ones is any indication, you can expect more content from me, not less, even if I stream a little bit less coming back. Because two things. One, only reason I'm streaming less coming back right now is because I really, really want to get this house finished. Now that summer's showing up, I need it to be done so I can just sit back and relax and enjoy, especially because I got all this extra yard work to do. It was easier to do it during the winter because all I needed to do then was shovel snow when I needed to leave the house. But other than that, um, I've got extra. I need to mow the lawn today. Maybe, yeah, probably today. Maybe tomorrow. But it's like I'm probably not streaming today because I need to mow the lawn and there's other. I need to do the dishes. I need to run to like the store so I can get detergent, do laundry. I'm going to spend a little more time clearing on the back end stuff, which it, I'm going to have more time to do now that I've conquered a lot of those demons. And in a way, it's more of like dealing with the physical space demons. Now that I have to spend less energy on dealing with the mental space demons. Once all of this 90% of this bullshit around getting the house renovated is taken care of, I'll be able to spend less time. I'll have more mental energy for content creation because it's just kind of always sitting there in the back of my head. I have this insane level of awareness. It's always been really frustrating for me. That's why I got so into weed for a while, especially when I was younger, because it's like one of the only things that helps me calm down, quiet the insane level of awareness of me, and just slow down for a minute. It's weird because I've noticed other people it does the opposite. It makes them like insanely paranoid. But the thing is, it doesn't really do that, in my opinion. I think it might for some people, there's a small possibility, but for the vast majority of people, I think some strains have something to do with it. Like the highly euphoric and highly energetic strains are definitely more likely to give someone who is what word am I looking for? susceptible to paranoia, a paranoid episode, than the lower energy, lower euphoria strains are. But neither one is going to give someone that doesn't get paranoid that shit on its own. There is another mitigating factor, though, which is the legality, right? It doesn't make people paranoid, but it does modify awareness levels, which I want to say increase awareness but that sounds weird because I'm saying my problem is like an insanely increased awareness, but it's kind of like a giving Ritalin to a guy with ADD versus someone without it kind of effect, right? If you give Ritalin to or any of those drugs to someone who doesn't have that, it's going to have the opposite effect where they start to show the symptoms. Like maybe start, if they take a lot of it, like some streamers and gamers do, pro gamers and stuff, maybe start tweaking out a little bit and stuff, even just show you the most extreme examples of like what unmedicated ADHD would look like, except for it's because of ADHD medication. I feel like there's a similar thing where my extreme level of awareness is, it's not dulled by marijuana, but like the awareness enhancing effects of marijuana make it more tolerable. And you know what? It is dulled. It absolutely is dulled a little bit. Because it's like I'm connected to all of my senses, right? So I will hear something, I will smell something. I even have like a kind of sixth sense, that gut feeling. I think we all do it, but I'm pretty in touch with mine. I'll be like, you know what? Something's not right. Something's not right. Whereas if I'm smoking or edibles or whatever, it's almost like I can shut a couple of them off temporarily. You know, there's just less noise, less sensory input that I have to deal with. And that really helps me. But yeah, the next phase, the level that this is about, is becoming. Like I said, the previous level was about remembering who I am, but also conquering the past during the section of when I was lost and didn't know who I was. But remembering who I am is a whole different story from being who I am, you know? And I've spent decades where I didn't know. So it's going to be a process to be fully me again. And that's what I believe this level is about. Hope you guys are ready to come along for the ride. It's going to be a wild one. Cheers.